Hello, personal health and wellness. This is chapter 5. I wanted to come to you today and talk to you about the 4 things that I took from chapter 5. This is video 1 of 2. I'm splitting this mostly because the content is so great about flexibility, and then the content about spine dysfunction is so great that I thought let's just do this easy. Let's put flexibility into one, and then spine will be coming. So the first thing I want to talk about is the actual physiology of a stretch. And from your physiology class that you have taken or that you will take, one of the things that you probably remember is the stretch reflex. Now what that is a twofold, very neuromuscular thing that happens when the muscle length tension has changed. So what I want you to consider is that specifically for our model here, a hamstring. When the hamstring, the back muscle back here in the leg, gets lengthened, there is a indicator in the muscle belly called the muscle spindle that first lets the spinal cord know that there is a change in length. And the reason that is there is out of survival or for protection. The muscle doesn't want to be strained or stretched. And so the muscle spindle is alerted first, and what the muscle spindle does is it gives an involuntary guarding or muscle contraction signal to the muscles that are getting stretched. And that happens specifically out of protection. Once that muscle has sustained a stretch for a little bit, the muscle spindles are inhibited by something called the Golgi tendon organs. And the Golgi tendon organs are in the tendon, and they basically say, muscle spindles, it's time to calm down, it's okay. Because what we're doing is we're trying to create length in this muscle. And so this concept that I teach in this class, but I also teach it in several of our physical therapy classes, is very important to understand just basic muscle function, because these two things really mean a lot to us, not only in flexibility, but in balance, in muscle reaction and contraction, but they really play a big role. And so one of the things that I needed to do was to really point this first thing out. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to talk about the types of muscle or the types of stretches that you can do. The first type, and the most simplest type, is a static stretch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our model here, Kara, and I'm just going to do a simple static stretch. Now what you see is her hamstring coming up, and as you probably have done, you've stretched that muscle, you start to feel tightness. That's the muscle spindle. It's letting your spinal cord know that something's going on, and that happens at the spinal cord level because it's a lot faster than if it has to travel to your brain. And so that stretch is occurring, those muscle spindles are firing, and there is a subtle contraction, and that's where I'm going to get the tightest right there. And you'll notice I'm using Kara's right leg, and I'm doing that for a reason, and I'll come back to that here in just a second. But I'm stretching that muscle, and I'm just holding that, and that's a static contraction. And so when you stretch and you hold that static contraction, you want to do that for about 30 seconds, and then hopefully after you relax that down, and then you repeat that stretch, you'll get more length because the Golgi tendon organ has come in and said, muscle spindles, you just need to relax. And I think probably on the video you can see that we've increased her flexibility in her hamstring, but that's not something that's going to remain. She will not retain this new length for the rest of her life if she doesn't do stretching quite often. And so there's the static stretch. The next stretch that we want to talk about is a dynamic stretch. And instead of having Kara jump down and show you this, I just want you to imagine someone doing a lunge maneuver and then doing it in a walking pattern. And so if they were lunging and then continuing to lunge, that would be more of a dynamic stretch. Another thing that you can consider in dynamic stretching is think about when you were a kid and you would skip. We don't call it skipping in therapy or even in athletics and performance. What we call that is an A skip. There's also a B skip. There's also a C skip, and it's just variations off of what it would look like to skip. But it's a very dynamic stretch, and it incurs muscle contractions along with muscle lengthening techniques. It's also a very good way to warm up, and I'll kind of talk about that again here in a second. The third stretch that I want to address is the ballistic stretch, and I want to really push you away from doing ballistic stretching. That's a bouncing type stretch, and I'm not going to have Kara do that here either, but that's kind of the one that you see where people will lean over and they'll do lots of repetitive bouncing, trying to get lots of quick stretches, follow like quick contractions, and that's really something that we see people doing and getting injured from, and so we really kind of push that one away. Fourth and final stretch is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Now this may be the first time you've ever heard those three words put together, or any of those three words together at all. In short, it's called PNF. And I just want to give you a quick demonstration of what that looks like. Now you saw what we did with her right leg, where we took her up into a static stretch, and look at that new motion. She's already increased just by doing 2 stretches, right? So that took 2 stretches. We got probably above 90 degrees. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that left leg and I'm going to stretch that up, and I'm just going to hold a static stretch on that leg for just a little bit. So we're going to kind of rush through this just for time's sake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch her, and we'll say 30 seconds has passed by. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take her out of that stretch just a little bit, and I'm going to ask her to push down against my hand, and I'm going to resist her in an isometric or allow an isometric contraction to happen to her hip extensors, knee flexors. So go ahead, Kara, now push, and she's going to push for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And then I'm going to take her out of that stretch, and I'm going to reapply that static stretch. And what you'll see is on that second stretch, I'm already increased my range of motion quite a bit. This is a very effective stretch, and one that we use quite a bit. The theory behind this is based off of reciprocal inhibition. I don't really have time, and this is not the class to explain reciprocal inhibition, but it has to do with the Golgi tendon organs and the muscle spindles. If we can get a quick muscle contraction that is active, we can inhibit those muscle spindles faster, and we don't have to wait on the Golgi tendon organs. And that's the basic summation of reciprocal inhibition. What I want to end the video with is showing you, or I'm sorry, before I end it, let me do this real quick. Let me tell you when you should stretch. I kind of alluded to this earlier about static and dynamic stretching. We really need to understand when to use those. Historically, if you go to an athletic event, one of the things that you'll see them do during their warm-up is static stretching. I really want to try to persuade you to avoid that. I want to kind of erase that from your database and say that's just not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to dynamically stretch people to warm them up. One of the most easy ways to do that, again, is to go to the lunge, to go to the skip, to look at sport-specific activities that you're going to do, and to do a warm-up and let those muscles warm up and become supple. The best time to apply static stretching is after you've done some type of exercise. Like, say you want to go for a run. Well, the very best thing you could do is do some lunges, do some skips, go for your run, come back, and then apply static stretching. The muscles are really supple and ready, and they will respond better to that static stretch, and you would get more motion or more range out of your muscles if you do it that way. So dynamic before, static after. To kind of end this video, I want to show you just a few simple little tools that we use. What I have here is a gait belt, and I'm going to ask Kara to go ahead and set up and scoot back for me. And the gait belt, I have tied a loop in, or rather created a loop in, and I'm just going to slip this over her foot, and we've kind of practiced this, and some people really respond well to using some type of modality to help them stretch. And so what Kara's going to do is she's going to pull on this gait belt, and she's going to pull her spine into some flexion, and you'll see that the gait belt is helping her to use her upper body to pull and help her stretch that hamstring muscle. A great thing to use. They make several different type of stretching belts that you can buy. You can watch tons of videos on YouTube about how to stretch with a stretch belt, and so I'll let you do that if that is your interest. We're going to go ahead and take this off now, and I'll let her put that over on the other side. This is another tool that I'm sure you've seen. This is a foam roller. They also make more rigid rollers that can be used. And what I do with these foam rollers is we're just going to set this underneath her her hamstrings here, since we've talked a lot about the hamstring, and she's going to come up and she's going to begin rolling. Now what I want you to consider is that roller is sitting underneath that hamstring muscle, and that hamstring muscle is having to lengthen over that roller using body weight and gravity forces. So what's happening is she's getting a lengthening on those muscles that she's not having to actually stretch from. Also, she's getting kind of a massage out of the deal, and that's definitely something that we like to do because that brings blood to the area as well. So there are lots of ways and tactics we can pursue in increasing our flexibility. Again, go back to your book, look at the FIT principle, study when the frequency, intensity, type, and time of flexibility should be. Let me know on video summary chapter 5.1 what you think. Give me some feedback, and I'll see you in the next video.